It's Berserk time! So in my last video, I covered the Black Swordsman arc, and today I wanted to talk about the real meat and potatoes of the show, the Golden Age arc. This was definitely one of the highlights of the manga for me, and I wanted to share my thoughts. So as always, leave your comments, thoughts, and feedback down in the comments below. I've said comments like 3 or 4 times in the same stretch of sentence, so it sounds a bit odd. But with that being said, subscribe and let's get into the video. My first topic of conversation is Guts' childhood and how Gambino raised him. And it's obviously pretty tragic, right? But it does a lot in terms of allowing the reader to sort of sympathise with him. And this kind of does a lot to explain why Guts distrusts others quite a lot. And like how his father figure ended up selling him out, you know? And this is why it's so satisfying to see him get vengeance against that one mercenary that was in Gambino's group, and seeing like Guts get his vengeance on the battlefield and whatnot. I really think this bit in specific does a whole lot more than the Black Swordsman arc in terms of helping you build a relation to Guts. Personally, this is what I really wanted more of, and it's really satisfying when you get to the Conviction arc, or more of the sort of, like the Millennium Falcon arc, I think it's called, and you get to see his bond with Cherokee and Isrido and Roderick and all of the other cast of characters. I also wanted to mention how, like, the circumstances of his birth will play a factor into, like, the end sort of arcs. Not, like, right now where we are in the story, like, chapter 380 or so, but, like, maybe in, like, chapter 400, I don't know, probably going to be more than 20 chapters, so, like, 450. I don't know how long this manga will go on for, but I definitely think he has a certain, like, affinity with the spirits and the astral plane because of his circumstances of birth, right? Like, his mother was technically dead before he was born, so she could have been in the astral plane, and then he's born, so he's technically coming out of it, if you know what I mean, and into sort of the physical realm, almost. Like, maybe his spirit is sort of like in a limbo, like a never zone. But I feel like that's more confirmed after the eclipse, where he's survived and he's been branded with the sacrifice, so he now attracts spirits and stuff more often. I've really enjoyed how characters' beliefs and the sort of setting really mingle and merge together. Like, everybody's a bit superstitious, so they're like, oh, Guts was born under a hanging tree, so he's obviously a curse, right? So all of the mercenaries kind of view him with some sort of contempt, but they're also proud of him. They see him as Gambino's prodigy, and it really hurts when Gambino comes in like a drunken stupor and tries killing Guts because he believes that Guts is why everything ended up that way and why he lost a leg and whatnot. Now, after he's run out, he sort of fights some wolves and gets picked up by different mercenary bands. And this is in one of the later arcs. It's not in the Golden Age arc, but I thought I'd talk about here because it seems more relevant. But this is when he escaped the prison. He's been taken captive, and he's speaking to the old man who's some sort of mercenary leader. And they're saying, oh, escape now, and you'll have a better chance, because you have your whole life ahead of you. And what happens is Guts escapes with the help of the mercenary leader, and he rolls down the hill, but he's wounded, so he doesn't make it far. But the Tudors capture him, and it allows the mercenary leader to escape. And Guts is thrown in this cell, and he's wondering, like, what will happen to me? Is it the end? And he sees this poor, small, like, flower spirit who's trying to heal him. It really ends up showing him how people around him will do whatever it takes by any means possible to keep him going, because they care about him. And people aren't all bad like he's known before. And we don't really get to see this influence much in the Golden Age arc until we meet, like, the Band of the Hawk and properly get to know them, and he fights Griffith and leaves, and he then finally goes, oh, I miss them. These people cared about me, and he properly learns his lesson there. Though now Guts is fully healed from these sort of injuries, he now faces the Tudor Count's son in battle. And as he's fighting this poor kid, well, he's not poor, he's nasty, he's cruel, and I don't like him. But Guts absolutely wipes the floor with him now that he's fully healed. and the mercenary leader ends up taking the castle back. And Guts kind of knows it's a double cross, but he's also now better off because of it. That reminds me of Griffith in a way, and how Griffith kind of uses all the Band of the Hawk, not really as like people, but just as pieces on a board. And I guess that's fine, because he is a strategist, he's a military leader, but at the same time, like, these people look up to him and care about him and view him as a friend, and you get to realise that in his dream, none of these people are equal to him. They are all just, like, expendable. So, now on to the Band of the Hawk, what you've all been waiting for, I presume. Guts meets the Band of the Hawk at a castle siege, and the Band of the Hawk have been holding out there for 3 months. To my understanding, the Band of the Hawk is working for the Midland Army, and Guts is working for the Tudor Army. I'm not too sure, so if anybody has, like, some clarification, please leave that in the comments below, because this has bugged me for the entire time that I've known Berserk. This is mostly because this arc takes place in the 100-Year War, and there's only, like, the Tudor and the Midland forces battling out. We don't really get to see many other forces beside the exiled prince from the Kushan Empire. Anyhow, Guts kills Bezuzo, and he is offered to be, like, a knight or some sort of castle guard, and he refuses. He's touched by the commander. I didn't mean it like that, but, like, he grabs his shoulder and he's like, come work for me, and Guts absolutely freaks out. Understandable, given what we know about the character, and Guts decides to walk away and find another group of mercenaries to join for the next battle. Corcus then notices Guts, and he's like, oh, that's the guy who we fought against and killed Bezuzo, let's rob him. Guts kills Dante, if I got his name correct, and a couple other Band of the Hawk members, and Corcus is like, whoa, okay, this guy's the real deal. So Casca is sent in to kind of save them both by Griffith, and Casca gets knocked off a horse, I believe, and then that's when Griffith steps in. And with ease, Griffith just defeats Guts like it's nothing. Guts is wounded in this entire encounter, so Griffith commands Casca to keep him warm, keep him healthy, you know, and most of the camp think she's a bit of a harlot because of it, but she kind of grows to disdain Guts. And Griffith is like, hey gang, if you beat me in a sword fight, you can go, but if you lose, you're mine. And Guts is like, I'm not a homosexual. And Griffith is like, yeah, I know, but I want you to fight for me. In my opinion, it was a pretty close fight, but it ends up with Griffith winning, so that makes Guts a member of the Band of the Hawk. Guts' first mission in the Band of the Hawk is to be the rear guard in an attack on some supplies of the Tudor forces. And I believe we see the same commander as we did at, like, the first siege who was actually working with Guts. I may be wrong, he might appear later on in the Golden Age arc, but I'm not too sure. It ends up being a really successful attack, and everybody's partying and relaxing and having a drink and whatever, and Guts is sat on, like, the castle parapets, I believe that's the right term, and he's on his own. And Pippin and Judeo and Rickard, I believe it might not be Judeo, I think it's just like Rickard and Pippin, kind of come up to him and say, come down for a party, we really want to meet you. And Pippin sort of like throws him on his back and brings Guts down. And this is the first kind of camaraderie we see from Guts in quite a while, if you ask me. We get to see Guts' relationship with the Band of the Hawk develop over the next few volumes, but we see that Casca and probably Corcus are the most antagonistic towards him. They don't like Guts at all. Because although Casca's there, she's now, like, below Guts almost. She's still, like, second ranking in the group. But now Griffith confides in and trusts Guts. Casca is definitely jealous of this, but also mad because Guts is completely impulsive. He has no real strategy on the battlefield, and he jeopardizes what the Band of the Hawk is doing just by going in and killing everything. There's no real rhyme or reason to it. I can't really recall why Corcus is so mean towards Guts, besides the fact he did kill Dante and a couple other of his mates in the first sort of time they met, which, saying that out loud, feels like reason enough why you wouldn't like someone. Though I really find it impressive in the writing how you still learn to care and like Corcus. Well, at least I did. Corcus was the person who didn't like Guts but you're still able to root for them, even though they're sort of mean to the main character, and they are sort of an antagonistic force. You still care about what they do and want to see them succeed to a degree. I thought it was pretty upsetting when Caucus does end up dying in the eclipse, along with all the other Band of the Hawk members. Now, after several battles, we see there's a fight with Zod the Immortal, Nosferatu Zod. That is such a metal name, by the way. Like, if you ever had to call, like, a villain something, Nosferatu Zod is just so cool to me. And this isn't our first look at the Apostles in the sort of series, but this is Guts' first look at an Apostle and Griffith's first look at an Apostle. And you get to really see how they react and what the strength of an Apostle is really like. And I know Nosferatu Zod is one of the more powerful Apostles. He's not God Hand tier, but I feel like he's closer than any of like the usual suspects, like Sluggy McSlugface the Count, and the Snaky Boy, and Rosalind. Actually, Rosalind was probably quite powerful if you ask me. I think Rosalind from the Conviction arc, the fairy one, she was near enough the same level to Zod, if you ask me. Another Apostle which was kind of on Zod's level, if you ask me, was probably Wild. You know, the guy who says, it's time to enjoy and excite, and he's just a nasty, nasty piece of work. He sort of comes close to Nosferatu Zod for me. I know he definitely wouldn't win in a fight, but he definitely stands out amongst the other Apostles. He definitely feels like he could put in more of a fight. We really get to see through Zod's confrontation with Guts how powerful the Black Swordsman is, though. He's not the Black Swordsman yet, but he definitely has the makings of such. He is really strong for a baseline human. Like, sure, give Zod 5 more minutes and Guts would be a red smear on the wall. But noticing that Griffith had a Baelet and was destined for something greater than dying here, he, disappears. He flies up in the air and he's gone. However, he gives Guts a prophecy beforehand, and Guts now has a bit of insight on what's to come. While recovering from this fight, Guts and Griffith then meet the king and Princess Charlotte. They also meet the second in line to the throne, the king's brother. And I feel like here is a turning point for Griffith. I believe his dream of being a king and having his kingdom is now attainable by meeting the Princess Charlotte. He now realizes that if he gets her to fall in love with him, he's basically second or third in line to the throne. And the Count obviously doesn't like him. So if he gets the Count out of the way, he's basically got a kingdom. I feel like this has fast-tracked his goal to being a king and diminished his friendship with Guts and Casca, Judeo and the rest of them just by that little bit more. The Band of the Hawk then go hunting with the king and the heir to the throne, also with Princess Charlotte and sort of the nobleman in tail. And this is where an assassination attempt happens, and most of the court think it's on Charlotte's life. They want to kill Princess Charlotte. However, it is meant for Griffith, and Griffith knows this, because he is a threat to the Great Chain. The Baelet manages to save Griffith's life due to the Baelet's sort of will, where everything sort of, if you lose the Baelet, it will come back to you, and if you are in harm's way, the Baelet will save you, sort of thing. And this really makes me wonder, could anybody actually kill Griffith? If someone just tried to decapitate him, would the Baelet, intervene? Because the Baelets and, the God Hand are seem to be pretty much all-powerful. So it makes me think that no one can really interfere with the fate of someone who owns a Baelet. I heard a YouTuber say that Griffith's dream and sort of desire and hatred for Guts kept him alive when he was being tortured by the King of Midland. However, I think it was more the Baelet's will. Even when the Baelet wasn't with him, he was destined to become Femto. And I think fate and kind of the laws of causality or whatever kept Griffith alive more than just pure willpower. I think I want to make this video into 2 parts because I just realised how much more I've got to talk about and how I don't really have time to properly chat about it now. But if you did enjoy this video and want to see a second part, well, I will be making a second part, but just leave your comments and thoughts below and feel free to subscribe. So, Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day.